Hi. So for chapter 2, I received a few requests regarding some concept or a clarification. The biggest problems we're having is regarding the installment calculation for individuals. The installment payment. Okay, so we need to, first of all, we need to clearly identify there is net tax owing and a tax payable. Okay, so those are two different definitions. Tax payable, it depends on your total income. And then they have a calculation saying that this is your estimated tax payable total amount. But normally for individual who has a employment income, there is some income tax withholding. With this tax withholding, your net tax owing will be your tax payable, deduct any tax withholding. For example, if you work for an employer, so every paycheck you received has been a net pay, right? Your gross payment has been deduct provincial taxes and federal taxes. So that will be your net pay, which means your provincial taxes and federal taxes being withheld already. So at the end of the year, when you do your tax return, you need to calculate your net tax owing. You use your tax payable, deduct all the taxes deduction has been withheld by your employer, which equals to your net tax owing. When you figure out your net tax owing, and then you have to see if this tax owing in the current year or one of the preceding previous years is over $3,000. So that is what it shows in the textbook. See, you're required to make installment payments if your net tax owing is more than $3,000 in the current year, 2019, or either 2018 or 2017, or not go further before 2017. It's always considered 3 years. Okay, so when you decide that you need to pay the installment, and now you need to figure out how much you need to pay. So it has been given 3 alternatives, right? So first alternative 1 is depends on your current year. So it's 1/4 of the estimated net tax owing for the current year. You use your current year total amount you owe, divide by 4. Then you goes to your alternative number 2. Alternative number 2 is considering the one of the preceding year. So current year is 2019, preceding year is 2018. So you divide by 4, the same calculation. Now it goes to alternative number 3, which is also the methodology that the CRA installment reminder has been used. You use your preceding year, deduct the first 2 alternatives from the second preceding year, and then divide by 2, so half of it. So that's what it says in right there. The first 2 installments based on 1/4 of the net tax owing for the second preceding taxation year. Right, so if it's 2019, 2018, 2017, so 2017's total amount divided by 4, you get first 2 installment from March and June. And the remaining of 2 installments equals the excess of the net tax owing for the preceding year over 1/2 of the net tax owing for the second preceding year, divide by 2. So that will be use your preceding year total amount, 2018 total amount, deduct the first 2 of the second preceding year's amount, and then divide by 2. So that is the alternative number 3. It is being used by the CRA installment reminder. Oh, now we have been knowing that the best choices is always depends on the lowest, right? The most beneficiary for the taxpayer, I mean. Now we're doing some examples. First of all, we have some exercise from our textbook. We could do the textbook exercises first. Yeah, we have these examples from the book, and then we'll do an exercise together. So we have exercise 2-3. Cutter, a resident of Ontario, had net tax owing for 2017 of $3,500. Net tax owing for 2018, $4,000. Expect to have net tax owing for 2019 of $1,500. If she requires to make installment payments for 2019. The answer is no, right? she doesn't need to pay an installment payment because her current year net tax owing is less than $3,000. So that's for exercise number 3. It's only $1,500. She doesn't need to make installment payment. Exercise number 2. So John, a resident of Newfoundland, has net tax owing for 2017 of $3,500. The net tax owing for 2018 of $1,500, and expect to have tax owing for 2019 of $4,500. If he needs to make an installment payment for 2019, because when you take a look at his net tax owing in the current year for 2019, it's over $3,000, right? And the one of the previous preceding years is over $3,000. So he is required to make installment payment. So the minimum we can depends on the preceding tax year, the net tax owing of $1,500, which is the preceding year. So divide by 4, you get 375 per quarter. So that would be the best choice is to make this is the best way, right? Because you always need to take a look at alternatives. Tax is kind of a very rule following course. So you have to make sure that you're following the rule. Do not think by yourself. So sometimes it doesn't make a common sense, but that is how you're going to do your taxes, because we took a look at the question. You always, the first step to do is you make sure you need to pay installment, and if you're sure that you need to pay installment, and then you follow in exactly the alternatives 1 to 3. So always the first alternative is think of the current year's tax owing. So current tax owing is $4,500. We divide by 4. You get over $1,000 you need to pay, right? And then alternatives number 2, you need to consider about 2018's total amount owing. So that will be $1,500. You divide by 4, you get 375. It's much less than 2019 one. So if you're considering alternative number 3, then you need to do the whole calculation for 2017. It's $3,500. And then when you do the calculation, divide by 4, and then you get over $1,000, you times 2. So the first 2 installment payments is higher than the total of 2018's total tax owing. So that's why 2018's is the best choice, right? Because it's much lower, it's the lowest one, lowest amount you need to pay. So that's why you choose 2018, and you do not need to actually do the calculation for 2017. Now, for exercise number 2, individual installment. Okay, so at the beginning of 2019, for Jesse Forbes, 2017 tax payable 53, amount withheld is 52. 2018 59, amount held 52. Until 19, you have 64, and amount held is 60. So first of all, when you have this calculation, you always want to see that if Jesse needs to make an installment payment. Now, as the net, we need to calculate, if you want to know if she needs to make an installment payment, we need to calculate the tax owing, right? So we use our tax payable, deduct 52. We use 2018 59, deduct 52, and use 64, deduct 60. So you get 1,000 for 2017, 7,000 for 2019, and 2019 is $4,000. Then you will see, okay, so we have our current year 2019 is over 3,000, and we have our 2018 is over $3,000. Then we need to make an installment payment. Then we need to calculate the installment payment. Then we're following the 3 alternatives. Always come with alternative number 1. We calculate our current year, use 4,000 divided by 4. The installment payment will be 1,000 per quarter. Now, you need to follow the alternative number 2. The preceding years is $7,000. We use $7,000 divided by 4, you get 1,750. So that is alternative number 2, is more than alternative number 1. Now, the third one is the CRA installment reminder, which is alternative number 3. We need to use our 2017 amount divided by 4, you get 250 per quarter. Now the first 2 quarters will be 250 times 2. You get $500, right? And the second installment, you have to use the 7,000 for 2018, deduct the $500 for the first quarter from 2017, and then divide by 2, you got $3,250 for the second 2 installments. Then the total installment you need to pay is $7,000, which is from 2018 total money you owe. Right? When you compare those 3 alternatives, you can figure out that, okay, so the alternative 1, the current year's installment payment method will be the best because you need, even though you need to pay $1,000 per quarter, but the total money you need to pay is only $4,000, much less than the $7,000, which is alternative number 3. So for this question, you can easily calculate it that the current methodology, alternative 1, is the best one to do. So this is from our exercises from the book. The most question I receive is from our homework. I'll quickly go to the homework and then we'll do this homework together. Okay. So the homework will be on page 77. Yeah, 77. Yes, so you can see that you're not like, I think this question will be looks like that, or use your common sense to try to figure out a tax question. The tax question always following the tax rules. So that is exactly like the law school, right? The law, the legislation. You have to follow all the rules like one by one. You're not just jump from one to another. That will make your exercises or your understanding much easier. Now we're almost there, I think. What is that? Assignment problem 2-1. Okay, there you go, finally. So for this question, this is also the 3 years information. So the tax payable column, there are 3 cases. Okay, so we treat the 3 cases differently. So what you could do is you see the first 2, case 1 and tax payable, as one question. When you finish case 1 and then you do case 2 and case 3. We could do this together. We'll see. So for 2017, you have your total tax of $18,880. And your tax withholding is $14,408. And then for 2018, you got 2320, and your case 1 withholding is 19,720. The same thing for 2019. Now, when we need to see that if we need to pay an installment, we first need to calculate the net tax owing for case 1 for 3 years, right? So we're doing this question. So we put part A, case 1. We do case 1 first. So our net owing, we use our tax payable deduct the tax owing, tax withholding. This 4,400 is our tax owing. The same calculation for 2019 and same calculation for 2020. Now, because our current year, interesting is because my book is for 2020, right? So ignore the year, the numbers is exactly the same. So the net tax only expected the 2020 is over $3,000. One of the preceding years is more than $3,000. So it's confirmed that Ms. Knight has to pay installment payment. Now the second question, they ask you to do a CRA installment reminder approach, which is alternative number 3. Then we need to do, we use our the second preceding years, total net tax only $4,400 divided by 4, you get $1,100 per quarter. You times 2. So the first 2 quarters will be $2,200. The $2,200 next, when you following the alternative number 3 methodology, you have to use 2019, deduct the first 2 quarterly tax owing payment, right? But when you take a look at 2019, it's only $600. The $2,200 exceeds the total money you owe for 2019, which means that the remaining 2 installment will be nil. So if it's nil, but you still, if you choose that methodology, you still need to pay $2,200 from March and June. Now, then we need to calculate the current year. We use 3120, because the question asks you which one is the best, like which one will be the best, right? So we choose, like, following the first alternative, we use the 3120 divided by 4, you have to pay more than $100. But then alternative number 2 for 2019, you only got $600, so you $600 divided by 4, you only pay $150 per quarter. So your total need to pay is $600. So this is significantly lower than the CR installment payment method. Okay, so the best alternatives will be alternative number 2. We choose 2019 with $600 in total and $150 per quarterly. Now you follow the same, we do part A is case 2. The same when we calculate the first year will be, because our tax withholding is higher than the tax payable amount. So we got nil for the first year, and second year we got $5,440, and third year we got $3,200. Now we see that our net tax owing for the current year is more than $3,000. And then when you compare 2018 and 2019, we have 2019 is over $3,000. Then we confirm that Ms. Knight needs to pay installment payment for case number 2. Now the second question asking if you use a CR installment payment reminder, which is alternative number 3, how much you need to pay? Because the first year is nil, because it's less. Then our first 2 installment will be nil, right? And then you still keep doing with your following alternative number 3. We keep following the number 3 calculation. We use 2019, $5,440. Deduct the nil, the first 2 installment from 2008, the first year, 2018, which 2017 from your book. You got, and then divide by 2, you got $2,720 for the last 2 installment. And the total you got it, you need to pay is $5,440. But if you, the best alternative, what is the best alternative? You use your $3,200 divided by 4, you got $800 per quarter. If you use the same amount, right? If you 5,440 divide by 4, and you got the same, you need to pay $5,440 in total. So when you compare the 3 alternatives, you will figure out the current alternative number 1, the current year's method alternatives will be the best to do. Okay. For parts A, case number 3, we the same thing. We first need to calculate the net tax owing. We use our withholding. With tax payable. With our tax payable, deduct your tax withholding. So for 2018, you have 3,600. 2019, you have 4,100. You have 2020 is 2,320. So when you compare this number, the rules is to make sure if the person needs to make an installment payment, the first one you need to take a look at what the current year tax owing, right? If the current tax owing is not higher than $3,000, you do not need to make installment payment. So this is for our case number 3. Your current year tax owing is less than $3,000. Then there is no payment of installment is required. So that is how you do your installment payment calculation. Is always following the alternative 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the way to do the tax. When you do your personal tax return at the end of the year, you're always following the rules. You do not just give a common sense. Sometimes there's no common sense, like you should do that way, or you think another way will be better, but just following step by step from textbook. So this is for our assignments. Now, I want to give one more example from our self-study. The self-study is from your course material or course support or something. From that area, we're not like recommend you to do all of the self-study questions because it's a little bit tricky than all those exercises or your homework. But if you have a quite difficult time to understand a specific materials or specific concepts, self-study question will be a better practice that to help you have a better understanding of the whole process. So this is from one of our self-study questions. It is for personal installment as well. So we see the question together. So for the 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2019, Ms. George provides the following information on his combined federal and provincial tax payable. So this is for tax payable, and then this is for tax withholding. Now, when we see those kind of questions, the first step we need to do, we just do simply calculate the net tax only, right? So we use 31500 deduct 29800. So this one gave 1700. For 2018, we use 14600 deduct 6200 and give us 8400. For 2019, we use 7400 deduct 24300. It gives us 3100 for the current year. We could see that for the current year, we have over $3,000 for net tax only. And then we have $8,400 for 2018. So we have 2 years. We have the current years more than 3,000, and the first preceding years is over $3,000. Then we need to make an installment payment. Then we come out and see how much we need to pay. If we choose alternative 1, right? We use with 3,100 divide by 4. We got 775 each quarterly. The tax number B we were doing is 8,400 divided by 4. That will be, how much is it? Is definitely is gonna more than 775, right? $2,100. Now, question C, we need to do the first quarterly payment. We use 700 divided by 4, which is 425. That's a good one. But when you do the calculation, now you keep doing the calculation, you need to use 8,400, you deduct 420 times 2, right? And then you divide by 2 with the total amount. This way. Then you come out with 370.75. So the first quarter, you only need to pay 425 per quarter. The last 2 quarters, you need to pay $3,775 for the last 2 quarters. And the total you need to pay is 84, right? The total you need to pay is $8,400. So that's alternative number 3. So the total installment payment is much higher than if you choose alternative number 1. So a preferable alternative would be to base on the payment on tax only for the current year. This payment will be $775 each. So you always remember the installment payments required when the individual's net tax only exceeds $3,000 in the current year and in either of the 2 preceding years. There's an end. So you have to have 2 years have tax only more than $3,000, right? So with simplified terms, the net tax owing is defined as a combined federal and provincial tax payable, less amount withheld under the ITA 153. ITA, it's Income Tax Act 153, which basically their income taxes withhold from your employer. And there are also some other rules you can follow in that. There are a whole bunch of a list under the 153. But basically, we'll be using is just income taxes withholding by your employer. So this is basically for installment calculation. Okay, thank you for watching.